Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Falani. It's wet in Lagos, southwest of the country, where we're broadcasting from. Has been raining from the wee hours, but that might not mean very much because depending on where you're watching us from, there might not be a hint of rain. But it's remarkable in Lagos here. Let me say good morning to my guest, Malaki Ugumadu, lawyer, civil rights activist, public affairs analyst. Thank you very much, as always, for making time for us.
I'm delighted for being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
And, well, we'll also be joined by Mr. Darlington UMORU, who is a security expert. There you are. Good morning to you, Mr. UMORU. Good morning. Yori Falani in studio here alongside Malaki Ugumadu. As you know, lawyer, civil rights activist, and public affairs analyst. We hope to be sort of, getting your insights, both you gentlemen, into, the news as it is evolving. As you know, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, it had a meeting last week, and it came out with some revelations that some have said, whereas they are shocking, they still nevertheless are not really surprising. A former military chief, for instance, is, being investigated for receiving 4 billion naira. I mean, that's with a B, not an M. 4 billion naira. Then the whole security apparatus, they are, interested in Mr. Mamu, who was the go-between, if you remember, to help us get some of to relate with burglars. I know what are terrorists and criminals and all these people. He, as you know, is related, at least by way of conviction, to the sheikh. So all of that is going on. And what seems to come to mind is, wait a minute, how safe are we really? We know security devices, security services are secretive, but we expect that they'll be secretive on behalf of the nation. But when you begin to hear these kind of comments coming out of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, no less, you now begin to say, well, how safe are we? Malaki, would you like to take a first stab at it? Are you shocked that such a body, such a formal body, is, in fact, it was said by the chairman that the forum at which they were speaking was called to really identify enablers of corruption in our society and the damage it has done to it.
Well, I'm not as shocked as I am disturbed. And I will explain. Mm-hmm. To be shocked is to live in denial that there are no incidents of corruption.
Yes.
Corruption has become not just endemic. In 2016, we have been rated as the most corrupt corruption capital in the whole world. Whether we're improving or regressing, I cannot tell. But I'm disturbed, on the other hand, because of the implications of the revelation. It is that it's now clearly an existential problem. Mm. And when you hear institutions of government driven by the fear of the magnitude of the crisis, to put it out there the way it is, mm-hmm. I guess that is why you wanted me to say I'm shocked. But I'm disturbed. I think I'm guided by the true meaning of those words. Now, what is the point? When you hear the Bureau of Statistics,
yes,
unlike civil society bodies that engage in monitoring of budgets and data and all that, Bureau of Statistics giving specific figures mm-hmm. about the deplorable state of our economy. As we say in local parlance, water don't pass Gary.
Yes.
So on this call, I need to commend the ICPC, but to challenge them further, I know the chairman very well, that we have gotten to the point where we can no longer be placated by these figures any longer. Billion is no longer tormenting.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fatigue has set in.
I mean, a few months ago, we were told of, who was that? They sold about 100 billion. There was this chairman of, so it's given. If you add 100 billion to 4 billion to, as they are coming out, there won't be any story about ASU. So it is not just that it is existential, it stampedes. It aborts. It abrogates development. It erodes any form of growth.
Okay. Let me find out what Darlington has to say about this matter. Darlington, over to you. Whereas regular guys like us are expressing the shock, especially at those areas of the public service and security service that are being mentioned by name, adding figures to it. Well, you're a security expert. I've heard one security expert say that he wasn't quite shocked with this. And for example, in the case of Mamo, he knew he was going to be picked up. He just didn't know it would be this late. He had expected it earlier. Give me your impression on the revelations that we're now hearing, that high up into the military, into the intelligence organization, there might be matters to investigate.
Yori, if anybody is saying he or she is shocked at what Professor Bolaji said,
yes,
at this time, and then I think that person is not being sincere to Nigeria. Are we hearing issues of corruption in the military at this point in time for the first time? Are we playing the role of the ostrich that want to bury its head in sand? Let me say something here. Let me remind you that when this set of chiefs, the incumbent chiefs now, came on board, you recall that the NSA himself made a statement of corruption. He did say that the chiefs said they didn't find on ground the equipment that lots of billions of dollars were appropriated to purchasing. He did say that. But you also recall that shortly after he said that, a few days after, he came back to tell Nigerians that he never meant that those monies were embezzled. So something apparently would have gone wrong. Somebody would have whispered something into somebody's ears. And then for he, in his capacity as the NSA to Mr. President, to make public, which was in the media, that all the billions spent by the outgone chiefs, there was nothing on ground to show for the equipment that the military, the soldiers were supposedly to use in prosecuting the war against insurgency, the bandits, armed robbers, kidnappers, and all of that. So this didn't come today. We have also seen or heard alleged stories of corruption as it has to do with where military, senior military officers were fingered. Yori, I also remind you that in May, some aggrieved personnel wrote a letter to Mr. President talking about corruption in the military. In fact, in that letter, I think they also talked about going on strike, which would have amounted to mutiny. You also recall how quickly the Army Director of Public Relations waded into that matter in denials to say that there was nothing like that and that, they gave us all kinds of excuses. One point that would not also shock some of you is the fact that Nigerian soldiers, when they go for international peacekeeping missions, they have often come back with medals. They have often performed very well. The question has been that these same persons execute the same thing in your own country. We have not been able to achieve total success. Until recently, when Mr. President gave the marching orders to the military to do whatever they could to eradicate insurgency and the bandits between now and December, we never had the much results we are having now. We have also seen military men who have made videos complaining about corruption in the system, particularly the foot soldiers. Don't forget that those of them who have the access for purchase of the military equipment are not necessarily, they are not the foot soldiers. They shuttle between the policy makers who are the civil servants, the public servants, and the top echelon in the military service, talking about the three bodies now, the three arms. Over time, as against what they present to the foot soldiers who are supposed to prosecute the war. So with all of this, if you have been following the trend, particularly even in the era of the past administration, where some of our soldiers tactically ran into another country, not even knowing, and they were escorted back to Nigeria by the military of another country. I'm sure we recall all of this. And so if you put some of this and all of that together, what the ICPC chairman merely said from his point of view is the angle of prosecution. But that anybody should be shocked that this is coming, these revelations are coming. I also recall that recently, huge amount of money were found in a building in Abuja. And it was alleged that this money were kept there by a former top military officer, which was denied eventually. These were all allegations. Now, the onus is on the ICPC and its fellow agencies like the EFCC and the rest of them to actually follow up with some of these things they tell us. And then the role of the judiciary too. I'm happy that Malachi is there. And there are situations where even some of these persons, these agencies will prosecute some of these persons, and then what comes out from the judiciary at the end of the day?
Indeed. Well, thank you, Darlington. I'm going to come back to you. Malachi, as Darlington is saying in there, we've had instances, and lest one be seen as an ostrich burying its head in the sand. That's where, Darlington is coming from. But now we have Koro and an agent of government and public service that cannot be wished away, cannot be poo-pooed, now saying what it is saying, including that it is also investigating the Special Intervention Fund approved for security operations by some civil servants who transferred about 1 billion to 4 shell companies. Civil servants. So you see, it's okay for this administration, when Buhari was going to come, there was this whole agenda of war against corruption and all of that. But what do you do if, as ICPC is alleging, civil servants seem to be hand in glove with these processes? I mean, who doesn't know what a shell company is? So how can civil servants be facilitating transfer of money to shell companies? It goes to show you how bad the situation is. Now, is there any escape from this? Now that it has become ho-ha, is it going to make any difference?
I believe it will.
Okay.
Again, I commend ICPC. But in commending them, cautious commendation. In commending them, we are insisting that they must, this time around, go beyond these statistics given. They must not come long on dishing out the information. They must come longer in
on actioning,
activating their powers, and give it to Prof in particular. I'm not sure he will be mainly interested in just mentioning or feeding the nation with these informations if he is not ready to take further steps. But I think that we as a people and Nigeria as a nation must find a way of appropriating this situation and show the resentment of the nation. And I'm happy my colleague, Darlington, concurs with me that we're not shocked I mean, these stories are not just recurrent, they are permanent in our psyche now. So to move forward is to say, how much longer can we survive with the trend of current corrupt practices? How much longer can we survive?
Well, now that it's out in the open, as you said, it was already known but suspected.
Yes.
And as Darlington was saying, these were consistently denied.
Of course.
You know, so now
is to, even to put it in perspective, is to say that the ICPC is well within its powers to move into these matters. They are statutorily empowered by the enabling act establishing them to deal with this kind of perceived corrupt practices involving civil and public servants.
Indeed. And civil
Do not forget that those in the Ministry of Defense and those alleged to have contrived these contracts fall within the civil and public service. So it is well within their power to proceed against them.
And even the Ministry of Justice, because as he mentioned, as Darlington mentioned, it's part of it. You never can tell what's going to come out of there.
So what he means by
one
that...
would want an independent goes without saying, so much so that they don't even add it to their name. But
they can allege, they can convict. They can only convict through the judiciary. And I think that's the point that my colleague is making. When you gather your body of evidence, watertight as it's supposed to be, you approach the court. It does not stop at your decks. Finally, you must be able to take those body of evidence to the court for the purposes of prosecution.
And the courts are supposed to come through doing their job the right way it is known universally.
Of course.
Universally.
Of course.
From time to time.
Do not forget that.
From time to time, things happen.
Do not forget that we have a system of criminal justice that makes the very valid point that it were better that 9 guilty persons escape justice than an innocent person be victimized wrongly. Justice Chukwudifu Oputa, this is in addition to what I have just said. You know, he was a classic and a philosopher. He said, and I quote, that the Supreme Court is not final because it is infallible. It is infallible because it is final. What he meant, the technical meaning buried in that statement, is that they are not beyond mistakes. In other words, there could be instances in which justice may have been seen to be dispensed, but against the wrong person. What is the point? The point is that it must not stop at your anger and the vexatious nature of what is being alleged. It must benefit from the crucibles of trial that will require forensic examination and critical analysis of not just the facts, but the laws applicable to those trials in arriving at a conclusion. That decision will lead to what you call judgment. That judgment will bring about the sentencing. The sentences will occasion the punishment. It is at that point that a nation must have conclusively shown its resentment without a mob trial or a media trial and situate these things within the context of the law in such a way that anyone who tries it, because the problem is that case after case, we have not seen the conclusions in a way that demonstrates that Nigeria resents this kind of... So many more people do it, because that is the meaning of impunity.
Exactly.
When I do it and nothing happens, it energizes the next person to even do worse, knowing that nothing will happen.
So
in China,
it's becoming more and more endemic, and that's the situation we find ourselves in then.
In China, when you are involved as a public officer in this, You know the music.
Yeah, the moral climate there is different. People feel this sense of honor, dare I say, much, much more keenly, acutely than perhaps a lot of other people. It is in those parts that you hear, including Japan, that you hear of people jumping out of a 20-story building simply because an allegation of corruption has been made. Here, people will not, without any shame, fight it, and the people will be behind them. When I say the people, in quotes, people will be behind them. So I was going to ask Darlington, with this situation, you know, you mentioned the judiciary. That's very, very important in this whole process of addressing what this revelation, how good these revelations are. Malaki had opined that he thinks it will make a difference. When I'd asked the question, is this going to make any difference? Seeing as, you know, NSA has spoken before, we know the import of that. Then you find people from within the army and these people, these security organizations issuing denials. My surprise, really, at Darlington, is that security organizations, you know, secret or otherwise, don't have the wherewithal to self-regulate so that these kind of things cannot possibly happen. There will be auditors or whatever they are called within those organizations, I would have imagined, so that it won't be a carte blanche like this, where people can do anything that they want. Is there a need to look into the organization and processes of these, our security services, indeed the army?
Of course, and one of those responsible who are supposed to be achieving that because of a separation of powers is supposed to be the judiciary. Look at the case of Alex Bade, the former Air Force chief. Until he died, what happened? Look at the case of Dasuki that is still on for how long? All these were cases of corruption. If the judiciary cannot actually punish and look at these matters as quickly as possible and punish those if found guilty, how will that serve as a deterrent to the ones that are going to come to occupy those offices of purchase? You talked about the intervention fund. You know, and then you also mentioned the shell companies.
Yes.
You also have seen how some of these persons, like the ICPC chairman has said,
Professor,
how they are investigating, Professor Bolaji, how they are investigating some of this activity. He actually brought up this matter to the fore on Friday.
Yes.
You know, in an event where he was giving, perhaps to me, he was mainly talking about their achievements, and then particularly why insecurity still persists or is still stronger at the moment. You know, who is supposed to regulate the activities of these persons? If the military has an internal organ of its own with which they carry out judicial activities, and then some of these persons, if found guilty, they are eventually handed over to the civil courts. Okay? But like it is, the military will first immediately deny some of these allegations. Of course, the public relations department is out there to, you know, to polish the image of the military. The moment some of these things, but my challenge, Yori, is that are we really sincere in all of this that we are doing, talking about the ICPC, talking about EFCC, and then who will eventually hand over for prosecution to the courts? What have we achieved over the years?
One moment, please, Darlington. Darlington, one moment, please. I beg your pardon. A caller has come in. Good morning, Mr. George, calling in from Lagos.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling, sir.
And good morning to Malaki and Mr. Darlington.
Mr. George, good to hear you. Good morning.
Uncle Yori,
Good morning.
see anything that concerns the military, the buck stops at the table of the commander-in-chief.
Agreed.
You can see that within 3 weeks or so now that the commander-in-chief put his foot on ground and said, go and kill those criminals. You can see how far the military has tackled banditry and the kidnappers.
Yes.
I told you the last time we discussed this issue that within 2 months, if they continue in this way, that nobody will be talking about insecurity again. Only 2 days ago, we were hearing that about 79,000 bandits
Can you believe that figure?
surrendered to the military.
Can you believe that? Yes. Yes.
So you can see that where there is a will on the part of the commander-in-chief, there will always be a way.
Indeed. Indeed.
Look, let us, maybe when I finish, Malachi should give us an update. We used to have a national security advisor in the name of the one that the president met there, Dasuki.
Yes.
We also saw how the government was trying to retrieve all the money he took. Do we know of what has happened to him up to now in terms of justice? It's unfortunate, Uncle Yori, that it appears the president has dropped the idea of anti-corruption in his agenda. So whether we like it or not, we have to live with it as it is now until whoever comes next will have to tell us what he wants to do about corruption.
All right.
So as far as I'm concerned, we have no choice but to just come to terms with it for now.
Oh dear.
It is not only the military.
I hear you, Mr. George. Somebody's on the line. Mr. Olawale. Good morning, Mr. Olawale.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Let me quickly take you the memory lane. Yes, Olawale is on the line from IKORODU.
Carry on, please. We can hear you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Let me quickly take you down the memory lane.
Sure, sure.
When this President Muhammadu Buhari took over, his first speech was that if we don't consume corruption, corruption will consume this nation. Okay? And corruption is almost consuming the nation now. And the corruption is so much, it's so gargantuan that I'm almost losing hope. Look, when the former chief of army staff, the one that died in that infected plane, the first thing he wanted to do, because he knew the extent of corruption in the armed forces, he wanted to investigate the amount of money that has been given to the armed forces to fight insurgency and security challenges. Of course, you know the end. He lost his life. Okay? So the armed forces, they believe that they are untouchable and that nothing can happen to them. We are hearing about 4 billion discovered in an apartment in Abuja. It's now being swept under the carpet. Nobody is talking. So until you make nonsense of one of these big men or big women who are in charge of this corruption, it will continue to grow. God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Olawale. Well, it's now out in the open. You know, people had always known. Yeah, that's why Malachi said to me, well, I'm not going to be hypocritical and tell you here that I'm surprised, because these things were already known. But now there's nowhere to hide. In fact, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, was saying recently that Nigeria is now safe. I don't know if he meant safer, but Nigeria is now safe because of these, you know, unprecedented number of bandits reported to have surrendered. They're still vetting them to see the penitent ones, how sincere that they are. But coming back to you, Darlington, I think it's your turn now. Okay, well, Darlington will be joining us. We'll be linking up with him again. The figure, it's way out. That figure of how did I hear 79,000 people? I'm saying, what is going on here? I think it was you who made the comment that you mean this has been possible all the while. Whether it was you or Mr. George, it escapes from my mind. That this has been possible from year 1 of President Buhari's. Now he's completing year 8. This has been possible, and it is just It's not. This is even later than a quarter to that we're getting action.
Mr. Yori, it's day in, day out, we come around here to discuss these issues. It's very depressing, I must say so, to see that a nation has invested so much hope and confidence in her leaders and find out that it wasn't worth the while. Now, I have personally...
But Mr. President chose the chiefs. He can't be seen to be micromanaging.
Please, I'm just getting to that. I had personally appeared on your show to insist, as it were, that, look, no one voted for President Buhari because he had the gift of the gab, or he could hold anyone spellbound trying to articulate a position, or that even had a good grasp of the economic issues. No one. There were two cardinal issues that drove this country momentously and gravitated towards him. One was insecurity. They believed that he had the capacity to return this country and retrieve this country from people running amok, calling themselves whether bandits or terrorists. Secondly was the question of corruption. I like one of the contributors who said he wonders whether those two have been removed from the agenda.
So now those are the two.
So
but one moment before you continue,
was it possible?
I've been holding on to Reverend Dominic for a while. Let him add. I'll come back to you. Reverend Dominic, thank you for holding on. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Chief Yori. Can you hear me better?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Good morning, my friend Malaki. How are you?
Good morning,
Indeed.
Reverend.
Yori, let me start where George stopped. Yori, and I want to say this, you and Malaki. If you believe the story of 79,000 tales that surrender, if you believe that story, you can believe anything from politicians and military in Nigeria. That's a corruption to cover the shame in the military. That's one thing. We'll discuss it another day. That is life anyway. We'll discuss it another day. But let me say this. This government I supported have become a pain on my head. Last night, my wife was taunting me when he saw Johnny Yame telling Nigerians to apologize to him for stealing their money and go to prison and will bring it out. He said Nigeria should apologize to him for doing him wrong. Could you imagine a criminal in any nation who they pardon to have a country, to ask the nation to pardon him, to apologize to him? Who caused, like what Judge said, the boss stops in the table of CNC, the chief in commander. The chief in commander came here to tell us they're going to fight corruption. I, pastor, was preaching pulpit that I can do it. Today, I'm a mocker among my equals, even with my wife. She was taunting me last night. It seemed like APC came to touch PDP, had to be corrupt. It goes down the ladder. Nobody is surprised any longer. The man they said they stole 100 billion. Is it accountant general or what? Does it make sense any longer? The issue is this, Yori, if you can listen to me, and Nigerians. The issue is this, that he looks hopeless about corruption because whoever told Mr. President to pardon the only thing we used to sell APC, the two governors of the prison, we say, yes, we have come to a place people will pay for their sins. And Mr. President, the champion of corruption, pardon those two men is the worst thing that can happen to this nation. Anything can follow. No more deterrent. Nobody is surprised on what's happening. I have a judge saying he's waiting to hand over to another president. And that president will find it difficult. We can't even pay this today. We can't even service our debt. How could the next president start from here? I'm not enthusiastic for 2023 because I don't even know how the president of 2023 will start. Is it corruption? Is it debt? Is it insecurity? Yesterday, Oba was attacked in Nnewi. 7 of men was killed and so like cow in a nation that has security. That man had to run for his dear life, and this man slaughtered 7 aides of Anjoba on the dead line in a nation. What kind of that's the corruption? What is relevant? It's relevant by the military corruption because when you steal the money to protect your people, everybody becomes vulnerable. I pray for Nigeria and I pity for Nigeria. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Reverend Dominic, calling in from Alimosho in Lagos. Okay, Darlington, and it's good to have you back with us again. Somebody had said, commenting on the situation, that I think it was a caller, I think it was Mr. George calling in from Lagos, that we just might have to come to terms with the situation and then wait for the next commander-in-chief, aka the next president that Nigerians will vote in to begin to address this. Now, that certainly will be bad news for the president and the presidency to hear that people are even thinking this way. People are even evaluating their performance along the lines of, maybe we better come to terms with it. It doesn't appear as if anything can be done this time. But when I had asked Malaki at the beginning of the program if he was, if he felt that, are we in the dumps? Can anything be done? He said he was hopeful. Are you also, hopeful that, a difference can be made with the next, or are we just going to have to compromise, say it is the way it is? I don't know. How far do you think we can go? Because the army, as you were saying, I think one of you was saying that their job is to protect the public image of the army, but that doesn't include putting out falsehood. As you know, public relations is all about, telling the truth, but telling it in a non-damaging way. But you can't tell a lie. This is a problem that we have. You can't tell a lie. That is classical. Go ahead, Darlington.
Well, you are looking at it from the professional point of view, that you can't tell a lie in the course of laundering the image of your organization.
In the course of your public relations function of protecting the image. You can't tell a lie.
You are saying it the way it is supposed to be. But is that exactly what we get today from those who are public relations officers of the organization? Deniers upon deniers, even when you see the facts on ground. Well, my concern, if anybody is saying that up until we have another administration, we may not get security matters right in terms of conquering insecurity, I don't intend to toe along that line. You also recall that at a point in time in this country, a certain, was he head of state or president, did say that if insecurity lasted beyond a number of hours or days, then it meant that some persons in leadership have a hand in it. Okay, Nigerians have lost faith in this administration in terms of conquering insecurity. No doubt about that.
Well, you can't say that. You can say that's your opinion. You can say that is your impression, but you can't speak for Nigerians. No. Really, Darlington.
No, not my impression, because like the man who said that up until we were only hoping on when the next administration comes after 2023 elections, that is when we can begin to get things, some things meaningfully done in this country in terms of conquering insecurity. Yes. That was what I was responding to. Okay. That opinion represents the opinion of a lot of persons, but I disagree with him. If you look at it, within the last 2 months, after the insurgents invaded the environs of Abuja, when we also had a threat to Mr. President, when one of the bandits leaders did say that they were going to, I do not see how that was possible. And Mr. President gave a marching order to the military and said, between now and December, he gave a red line, a deadline, and says, between now and December, you must conquer all these persons. We are beginning to see results.
Yes.
If it were like this
late in the day,
I can say that by now we wouldn't have made a lot of impact in terms of conquering insecurity in Nigeria.
I hear you, Darlington. One moment, please. I've got to take Benga, who has been holding on for a while, calling in from Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for holding on, Benga.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Darlington. Good morning, Mr. Malaki there.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Yes. Let me tell you, Mr. Yori, any Nigerian that is shocked by this assertion from ICPC, that we have not been following the trend of our security, whatever. Then I make a reference to the put $2.1 billion that we could not find today that Jonathan approved for the purchase of firearm, training of personnel, and the rest today. That is just, why don't we expect any shock in there? Let me tell you, till today, the military don't advertise their purchases. This for security reasons. And who are their contractors? They are past generals, past military leaders. These are the contractors. You go there. I'm in Abuja. If you go to there, they will register you, say you're a contractor, but you will not see anything. They will tell you, don't worry, we'll call you when we need any job. And jobs are being rolled out every day. Then with this situation of insecurity, who is auditing it? What is the procurement process? These people do not realize what is going on there. So why would not see corruption there? And look at Abba Kyari. Do you know many Abba Kyari in the military, supporting bandits, giving them arms, and collecting ransom, and they sharing ransom with them? I mean, you see,
Abba Kyari, the police officer. You're talking about Abba Kyari, the police officer?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just to show the level of corruption in the police and the military and our security agency. You see, so, let me tell you something. People are saying that everyone now who are near general level, you don't want this thing to end because they want to take their own.
Yeah.
The generals, so those who are mean, that now say, please, so this is not, let me become the army, the chief and observer staff before this will end. So that I can take my own.
Yeah.
That's what is going on. And this will also affect our crude oil being sold every day. The military and the rest are also culprits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wenga, calling in from Abuja. We certainly, any way you look at it, Malaki, there's no delicate way to say it. We have a problem on our hands. If our army, our security operations, the institutions and personnel are being spoken about in this way. Well, as you lawyers are constantly, cautioning us that there's the way these things are expressed to you. The much you can say is that it's an allegation. Darlington will agree that this is alleged. Darlington himself, being a pro, has used allegations, because most Nigerians are a bit, constrained by those words that, look, if only I could speak freely. Everybody knows what is going on, but knowing in the eyes of the law is totally different from the way Nigerians know. Malaki has just helped us, telling us what we also already know, that decisions, judgments are going to be based on the evidence that is brought. That is another problem. But these things, if there is the will, it was Darlington who first of all brought up that notion. If there is a will, there is a way. The unfortunate deduction that can be made is that perhaps there wasn't a will before now, and now there seems to be something of a will, and you see the way that we have seen. Imagine if we had been traversing this way 7 years since.
So too late, too little. The way you talk about has become crooked. In short, it doesn't seem to lead us anywhere any longer. My biggest question was this possible at all? We have wasted 7 years down the line, unable to.
It was possible now. That's why it's possible now. It was possible. If it was possible,
was that an abdication or dereliction of duty? This is completely.
Maybe it was a matter of studying the matter.
You don't study for 7 years.
And wanting to be absolutely sure. So, I don't know. Let me bring in Faith, calling in from Abuja. Good morning, Faith. Darlington, why are you laughing? Good morning, Faith. Faith in Abuja, I am told. Oh dear, did we lose the call?
Hello.
Is that Faith?
Hello, NURAIN. Good morning.
I can't hear. Good morning. Calling in from Abuja. NURAIN.
Yes.
NURAIN.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, the assertion of the statement or the assertion of the ICPC, talking about the military and the public service being the problem. Let's look at it, the military. Talking about insecurity. Before the election of 2015, I think when we had the president talking about insecurity, campaigning insecurity. After the election, the campaign promises, I think most of it are not even put in place. Because let me tell you something. If we want to end insecurity in this country within a month, it's something we can end. We have the armed forces, the Air Force, the Navy, the army. So, but the thing is corruption. The corruption is the problem. Talking about corruption, when you go to Maiduguri or other places, like insurgency, we have soldiers, they recruit soldiers. Aside their salary, they are taking 30,000 naira for operation grant, and the operation grant, operation salary, operation money. free food, free water, free everything. In such way, those kind of soldiers will not want that thing to end. I have few friends that were at Maiduguri in 2019. Some of them came back home with car just because they were at the Maiduguri to serve for a year. Where did they get such money to get a car? But imagine, we even have generals, we have leaders that are making money from this thing. Your generals, the leaders are using bulletproof cars. You have soldiers at the back of the Hilux with AK-47 that is not even well serviced. AK-47 that is not active. Is that what to end the security? The corruption has eaten deep into us.
Okay.
I was in Oyo State some time back.
Yeah.
There's a fact that you have to park your car, get down to go and give the soldiers sitting down under their this thing to go and give them money.
I hear you, NURAIN. Thank you very much for calling in. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. Thank you very much, NURAIN. Yeah, you're right. People know about those instances that you're mentioning. But this even goes way, 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 way beyond that. Because perhaps a more substantial handle to this particular question you were addressing is the thought that there might be people who don't want us to have peace simply because it's more profitable. I have heard generals tell me this, off camera, that it might well be that, you see, if everything were to normalize, then a lot of free money up and down the place would simply dry up. Now, let me come to you. In Abuja, I beg your pardon. Yes, I think that's where. Darlington, you're in Abuja. I didn't even tell where you were from. Are you in Abuja? It doesn't.
No, I'm in Lagos.
Oh, okay, in Lagos. This, therefore, is an important issue that we need to be hearing from would-be presidents, all of them that are going to be seeking our votes. If only we're doing things the right way here with the right emphasis, one would want to hear what they have to say about this situation. Don't just cover it under generic corruption, which has eaten deep into our fabric, but the very gatekeepers of that corruption are the people now being besmirched by these kind of opinions. Do you think it's a worthwhile venture to ask the politicians who want to be president after President Buhari what they would do differently?
Definitely. That's why in most times you have the debate. But the challenge is not what they will tell you at this point in time. What they will tell you now is whatever you want to hear to enable you give them your vote. Apparently. Yeah. It's just sincerity in all they have told us in the past. They are Nigerians, and all of them who are contesting, who are going to be contesting the presidential seat in 2023. Is there any one of them who was denied the privilege or opportunity of writing a memo and sending to Mr. President as an advice in terms of curbing insecurity in Nigeria? Is there any one of them? What is it that they will be coming to do differently when they come? If you ask them these questions, you already have an already made answer, which has become a music coming out from a broken record. Yeah. It's the kind of thing we've heard over and over and over again.
I agree with you, because after all, President Buhari himself assured us at the time that the way he was coming for business. But here we are. I think we have a final caller. I beg your pardon. I must squeeze in Abdullahi calling in from Kano. Good morning, Mr. Abdullahi.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir. I'm calling from Kano.
Yeah, Abdullahi, go ahead, please.
This issue of ICPC, we are all these things that is going on. It's our government that gives them hand to do all these kind of things. Look at the way they are doing all these things here. It's not supposed to be done that way. So look at all those people that they're going to attack this man yesterday in convoy at Ismo State. So what if there are all these things? Look at this man that arrested in Kaduna State, Mahmoud. Look at it. He's not an army force. And they saw army uniform in his office. And there's too many things. He's got too many things. He's a poor man. They have to, before they arrest that man, they have to kill him. And look at this rich man, they say they'll take him to court, or Shubumi say they'll take him to court, or they'll to release him. It's not done that way. There should be treated according to each other. If you come and do something now, they'll not be hearing it. When you rich man, they'll cover it up. It's not done that way now. All of us are human beings. We are the same people in the Baba God front. We want to punish ourselves according to the law. So look at the way things are going. Prices are going high. Look at Shubumi. These are the bandits. You know where the bandits are. And they're trying to arrest all this. You know where they are. You cannot say anything on it.
Look at Mahmoud, they are all half hands, all these kind of things. Look at Alpha Gary. Where is Nigeria is going? Go to tell ourselves the truth. So that let's have something we do in Nigeria. It's not done that way.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Abdullahi. We've completely run out of time. But, you know, it's worrying. Did you have a bullet point?
Yes.
You know, a 10-seconder?
That would be that the Nigerian military should come out openly and categorically to make a statement with respect to what is going on.
Indeed.
And because imagine what the feelings of those in the field would be hearing
all of this. Darlington, any 10-seconder to close with? We don't have even time for a paragraph.
Yeah, I think the presidency should build on the onslaught that is currently going on, particularly with the use of the deployment of the Tucanos. Only 2 Tucanos can do the business.
Indeed.
Just 2 Tucanos can do the business for this country if they actually had to fight this battle sincerely, with all sincerity.
Indeed, and if they get the order. Thank you very much, Darlington UMORU, security expert, for coming on our program today. And of course, thank you very much, Malaki Ugumadu, lawyer, civil rights activist, public affairs analyst, and former president of CDHR.
Thank you very much.
There are other accolades, but I stop there for now till the next time. Thank you very much. And indeed, thanks to you as well for staying with us on the program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.